So you're aiming to really get up to speed on project management, right?
Right.
Become well-informed, but, quickly.
Yeah, without spending forever in courses.
Exactly. And you've sent over some great stuff, personal notes, a really detailed roadmap document, basically the key info for becoming a project manager.
hmm And our job here is to kind of pull out the absolute must-knows from all that.
Give you that shortcut.
Right. We want to distill it down, make that path super clear. Think of it as the express route to understanding the PM journey.
Love it. Yeah, we've got your study notes. They look like a really solid course structure, actually.
And that text document.
And the text document, yeah, which lays out a roadmap and tons of resources. What really struck me is how both sources see this as, well, a series of steps.
Definitely. Not just one huge leap.
It's a structured process, phase by phase.
And what's great is that logical progression in both sets of materials. They're not just thrown in. You build a foundation first, then add the more complex stuff. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's dive into phase 1 then. Foundational project management principles.
Starting point.
Yeah, looking at your notes and the roadmap, this bit is all about grasping the core ideas, the different methods, the project lifecycle itself.
From start to finish.
Right. Things like project initiation, initial project planning, and some key PM essentials.
You got to set that stage properly.
Right.
Without this solid base, the later phases just won't stick. It's the foundation for everything else.
Makes sense. So project initiation first. Your sources pull out some key things here. The business case, project assessment, defining the deliverable, the project charter, and even initial project risk. The absolute first steps.
And they all connect, right? The business case is the why. Why this project?
Right.
The assessment is, can we even do it?
Yeah.
The deliverable is, what are we actually making?
Okay.
The charter makes it official.
Yeah.
And thinking about risk early on,
Yeah.
that's just smart. Gets you proactive from the get-go.
Yeah, proactive. And it reminds me, you had this great question in your notes. Think about a time you organized something complex. What were the key steps? It's kind of the same thinking, isn't it? Just figuring out the basic of what you're tackling.
It really is. Before you even worry about, like, Agile versus Waterfall, just reflect on your own planning. What had to happen first? What was non-negotiable up front? And that circles right back to why the project charter and defining that project deliverable are so critical. If you don't know the destination, how can you map the route?
Good point. Okay, then there's initial project planning. The sources mention some basic tools here. A Gantt chart in Excel, a SWOT analysis template, an action plan template.
Foundational stuff.
Yeah, not the super complex software yet, just the core frameworks.
Exactly. Think of it as your starter toolkit. Gantt for the timeline visual.
Right.
SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Helps you understand the context, the environment, and the action plan. That's where you start mapping out the actual how, the steps.
Got it. And under PM Essentials for this phase, the big focus is the project scope template.
Yes. Critical.
This sounds like drawing the line in the sand, basically. Defining what the project is and what it isn't.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's the boundary line. You clearly state what's in scope, the objectives, the deliverables, and what's out.
Prevents things getting added later.
Precisely. Helps manage expectations and stops that scope creep, where things just keep getting added on and the project balloons.
Okay, so using your example, building a website, the non-negotiables. What has to be delivered? Thinking like that really clarifies the scope.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And that's the core of phase 1. The learning goals, like you noted, are understanding that whole life cycle, initiation to closure, getting a feel for different approaches, Waterfall, Agile, Scrum, and starting to think about what could go wrong, those initial risks.
And the resources mentioned seem spot on for this stage. Online courses like Project Management Basics, the Google Certificate.
Good starting points.
Core books like the PMBOK Guide, bit of a mouthful, that one, or the Absolute Beginner's Guide.
And just reading articles.
Yeah, articles from PMI or PM blogs to just start immersing yourself.
Right. Different options for different learning styles, really. Finding what clicks for you at the beginning.
Okay, phase 2 then. Planning and execution mastery. Sounds like we're stepping it up now.
Yeah, moving beyond just the concepts.
Getting into the real how-to.
Exactly. How do you plan it all out in detail?
Yeah.
How do you schedule realistically? How do you figure out who does what?
Yeah.
And how do you start actually, executing the plan?
So those tools from phase 1 Gantt, SWOT, action plan, we see them again. But now it's about really mastering them, right?
Yes.
Using them effectively, not just knowing what they are.
Precisely. Moving from just understanding to actively applying. You're not just filling templates. You're thinking through the logic, tailoring it to your project.
Gotcha. And a new big one appears, WBS management, work breakdown structure.
Ah, the WBS foundational.
Sources mention specific templates, checklists, WBS construction, WBS plan. Looks like breaking down the big goals into smaller chunks.
That's exactly it. It's hierarchical. You take the main project goal, break it into major deliverables, then break those down further into smaller, manageable work packages or tasks.
Like outlining a paper.
Kind of, yeah. Main topic, subtopic, specific points. It makes everything easier, assigning work, estimating time and cost for each bit, tracking progress. Much clearer.
Okay, but how does breaking it down make estimating easier? Isn't it just more things to guess?
Ah, good question. It seems counterintuitive, maybe? But the thing is, it's way easier to accurately estimate a small, well-defined task.
Okay.
Like estimating the time to design the homepage versus estimating the entire build the website project.
Right, much harder.
Exactly. So you estimate those smaller pieces, and when you add them up, you get a much more reliable overall estimate for budget and timeline than if you just guessed at the whole thing.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, then we hit project costing. Tools like cost benefits analysis there, cost estimation plan, earn value template, project budget template.
Yep, the money side.
This is where finance gets serious in the project.
Totally. Cost benefit asks, is it even worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Estimation plan and budget template figure out how much will it cost. And earn value. That's key for tracking financial health during the project.
Earn value. How does that work?
Basically, it helps answer, for the work we've actually done, how much money should we have spent? It compares planned value, actual cost, and the value of work completed. Helps you see if you're on track, budget-wise.
Okay, interesting. What does it mean if your planned value is higher than your earned value?
Generally, that means you've completed less work than you planned to by that point in time. You're behind schedule in terms of value delivered.
Got it. Then there's procurement, getting stuff from outside.
External resources, yeah. Goods, services.
Templates here, purchase order, procurement plan, recovery policy, performance report. Sounds quite formal.
It needs to be, often. The procurement plan is your strategy.
Yeah.
What you need, when, how you'll pick vendors, manage contracts. The purchase order is the actual order. Recovery policy is the what if they mess up plan. Performance report tracks how well they're doing.
So why have that formal procurement plan before issuing POs? Why not just order stuff when you need it?
Well, planning ahead helps you be strategic, avoids rushing, gets better value, manages risks associated with relying on others.
Okay.
Winging it with procurement can lead to delays, surprise costs, or getting stuff that isn't quite right. The plan prevents a lot of that potential chaos.
Understood. So phase 2 learning objectives. Really nail those Gantt charts in WBS, get budgeting and earned value, understand procurement, and sharpen those SWOT and action plan skills.
Exactly. Solidifying those core planning and execution skills.
And the resources reflect that. More advanced courses on planning and budgeting, maybe software tutorials for MS Project or Excel.
Getting hands-on.
Yeah, plus books and practicing with all those templates you mentioned.
Practice is key at this stage. Really internalizing how these tools work.
Okay, phase 3, monitoring, control, and risk management. This feels like keeping the ship on course once it's sailing.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is about actively steering the project, tracking progress against your plan, spotting problems, dealing with them, and managing those risks proactively.
So project tracking tools mentioned, RACI Excel template,
Roles and responsibilities.
root cause analysis docs, gap analysis template, execution tracking, and a RAID log. Quite the toolkit.
Each serves a purpose. RACI responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, clarifies who does what, avoids confusion.
How does a RACI matrix stop that confusion? Don't teams just talk about it?
They do, but talk can be ambiguous. RACI formalizes it.
Yeah.
Everyone sees clearly who's doing the task responsible, who owns the outcome accountable, who needs input consulted, who just needs updates informed. It removes that ambiguity. No more, I thought you were doing that.
Ah, I see. Okay, what else? Root cause analysis.
Gets the why behind problems. Gap analysis compares plan versus actual. Execution tracking monitors task progress. And RAID.
The RAID log. What's that stand for again?
Risks, assumptions, issues, and dependencies. A central hub for tracking all those crucial elements that can affect the project.
Okay. Then risk management gets deeper here than in phase 1.
Definitely. Moving beyond just identifying risks.
To assessing them, mitigating them.
Right. Assessing likelihood and impact, planning how to reduce them, that's mitigation, and constantly scanning for new ones. Sources mention things like incident priority, formal risk identification, cause-effect diagrams.
So what is the difference between a risk and an issue? You track them separately in the RAID log, but they sound similar. Both are bad.
Both are things you don't want, yes, but a risk is something that might happen in the future. It's potential. An issue is something that has happened. It's a current problem impacting the project right now.
Ah, okay. Potential versus actual.
Exactly. And you manage them differently. Risks need prevention and contingency plans. Issues need solutions and fixes fast. The RAID log keeps that distinction clear.
Makes sense. Then, issue resolution. Focusing on that root cause analysis again.
Yeah, digging deep.
Finding the fundamental reason, not just patching the symptom.
Crucial. Just fixing the surface problem isn't enough. If you don't find the root cause, it'll likely just happen again, maybe worse next time.
So, why is fixing the symptom not enough? Seems like putting out the fire is the priority.
It is the immediate priority, sure. But if faulty wiring caused the fire, just putting it out doesn't solve the underlying problem.
Yeah.
The wiring is still faulty.
Right. It'll just start another fire.
Exactly. Root cause analysis finds the faulty wiring so you can fix that. It saves time, money, and headaches down the road by preventing recurrence.
Got it. And under PM Essentials here, there's managing multiple projects, a multiple project tracker, project pipeline tracker.
Yes, scaling up. When you're juggling several projects, you need that higher level view. How are resources spread? Are there conflicts? It's portfolio thinking.
Okay. So phase 3 objectives: understand tracking, master strategies, get good at root cause analysis, report progress well, keep monitoring.
Spot on. And the resources match. Courses on risk, monitoring, control, articles on risk frameworks, practice with issue tracking tools.
Moving into phase 4, people and portfolio management. This feels like a shift.
Big shift.
Yeah.
Towards the human side and the bigger picture.
Recognizing projects are about people, not just tasks.
Absolutely. The team, the stakeholders,
Yeah.
and how the project fits strategically within the organization.
So staff management tools, staff competency matrix, stakeholder matrix, project resource matrix, all about the who.
Exactly. Competency matrix maps team skills. Stakeholder matrix identifies everyone with an interest or influence. Resource matrix tracks people, equipment, budget, all the resources needed.
Thinking about stakeholders, let's take that example of building a new public park. Who are the key stakeholders and how might their interests differ?
Oh, good one. Okay, stakeholders could be local residents. They want green space, maybe specific features. City council focused on budget, politics, approvals. The Parks Department worried about maintenance, long-term usability. Maybe environmental groups concerned about conservation. Local businesses hoping for more foot traffic. Even potential donors. Their interests can clash, right? Noise versus recreation, cost versus features. Managing all that is key.
Yeah, definitely. Then we get introduced to the PMO, Project Management Office.
The central hub.
And a bunch of PMO documents: action plan, comms plan, business case, KPI dashboard, charter, roles. Sounds like setting up a whole department.
It often is, or at least a dedicated function. A PMO standardizes how projects are run across the organization, provides support, governance, templates, best practices.
How does a PMO create consistency if every project is unique?
Good question. While projects differ, the process of managing them can be standardized. The PMO sets up that common framework methodologies, reporting standards, templates. This allows for better comparison between projects, sharing lessons learned, managing resources more effectively across the board.
I see. And under PM Essentials, a portfolio dashboard?
Right. High-level view again.
Looking across all the projects.
Exactly. Portfolio management is about selecting and managing the right collection of projects to meet the organization's strategic goals. The dashboard gives leadership that snapshot view: which projects are healthy, which need attention, how they align with strategy.
So if an organization has tons of ideas but limited resources, how does portfolio management help them choose? Sounds tough.
It provides a structured way to evaluate them. You look at strategic alignment, potential ROI, risk levels, resource needs. Compare them apples to apples, basically.
Okay.
It helps make those tough calls. Which projects get funded now, which get delayed, maybe which get canceled, ensures resources go where they'll have the biggest impact.
And finally, this phase hits hard on soft skills.
Crucial. Leadership, communication, negotiation.
It's not just the technical stuff?
Not at all. Project management is people management, fundamentally. You need to lead, persuade, listen, resolve conflict. Without strong soft skills, even the best plan can fall apart.
Why is active listening so important? Seems like just stating your point clearly is the main thing.
Stating your point is important, sure. But active listening Really concentrating, understanding, responding thoughtfully builds trust. It helps you uncover hidden issues or requirements people might not state directly.
Ah,
It makes team members and stakeholders feel heard and valued. That leads to better collaboration, fewer misunderstandings, smoother sailing overall.
okay. So phase 4 objectives wrap it up. Stakeholder management, resource allocation, understanding PMOs, portfolio concepts, and building those vital soft skills.
Yep, and the resources reflect that.
Hmm.
Courses on leadership, stakeholder management, books on influence, agile teams, joining professional groups for networking.
Networking seems huge here.
Immensely valuable. Learning from people who've been there, done that.
All right, the final stretch. Phase 5, certification and practical experience.
Bringing it all home.
Validating the knowledge and making it stick through real-world application.
Exactly. Taking the theory and skills and proving you can use them, plus getting credentials that employers recognize.
Certifications are a big piece. Sources mention CPM, PMP, Prince2, Agile ones like CSM, SAFe.
Lots of options. CAPM is often a good entry point. PMP is the big one for experienced PMs. Prince2 is another major framework. And Agile certs for that specific methodology.
Which one makes sense depends on where you are in your journey.
Right, and your career goals.
So, thinking about someone maybe earlier in their career, based on our chat, which PMI certification, CAPM or PMP, seems like a better first target?
Generally, for someone starting out or with less formal project lead experience, the CAPM is probably the more logical first step.
Okay.
It focuses on foundational knowledge and doesn't have the heavy experience requirement of the PMP. Getting the CAPM builds credibility while you gain that hands-on experience needed for the PMP later on. It's a stepping stone.
That makes sense. And practical experience is hammered home too.
Can't skip this.
Sources suggest volunteering, internal projects, personal projects, internships, entry-level roles, just doing it.
Absolutely. Theory is one thing, but applying it under real-world pressure, facing unexpected problems, that's where the learning really cements.
How could someone apply, say, WBS or scheduling to something non-work related, like planning a party or renovating a room?
Easily. For a party, use a WBS. Break down tasks like guest list, invitations, venue, food, decorations. For a renovation, use a simple Gantt chart. Track task dependencies like demolition must finish before plumbing starts, plumbing before drywall, etc.
So you can practice anywhere.
Totally. Applying these principles in everyday life is fantastic practice and builds confidence.
And finally, career building steps. Creating a portfolio, tailoring your resume, interview prep, finding mentors, networking.
Setting yourself up for success. The portfolio shows proof of your skills, sample project plans, WBS charts, risk logs.
What kind of project artifacts could you actually put in a portfolio?
Things like a sanitized project charter, a WBS example, a risk register you managed, maybe a lessons learned document, a sample status report, anything that demonstrates your ability to apply PM principles and use the tools effectively. Anonymized, of course, if it's from real work.
Got it. So, certification proves knowledge, experience builds skill, and career building gets you the job.
That's a good summary. And woven throughout all these phases are those general success tips from your sources.
Right, the constant threads.
Networking, continuous learning, those crucial soft skills, good documentation, knowing the tools. They're not separate. They're part of every phase.
So looking back at everything from your materials, becoming a project manager really is this structured journey.
It's a clear path. Theory plus practice.
We went from foundations to planning and executing, monitoring and controlling, people and portfolio skills, and finally certification and getting that real experience.
A comprehensive roadmap.
So now that you've got this clearer picture, here's something to think about. What's one small project, maybe at work, maybe just a personal goal, where you could start consciously applying one or two of these principles today?
Could be as simple as making a mini action plan or identifying key stakeholders for something you're organizing.
Or reflecting on those methodologies, Waterfall, Agile, Scrum, which one kind of clicks with you, which feels like it might suit the projects you see yourself doing down the line. Thinking about that could shape your next learning steps.
Great questions to ponder.
Well, thanks so much for sharing these detailed notes and the roadmap. We really hope this deep dive gave you that valuable shortcut, that clear understanding of the path to becoming a successful project manager.